Hello, I'm Rupel66 and welcome to my first ever tier 4/ISO-8 recommendation video. So these here are just my own recommendations, so you can do them as you wish. I just try and guide you in the right direction, and these here are what I think would be the best to do. So, this is my first video here doing it, so I would appreciate feedback to anything, just comment down below what you think I did good, what you think I did do better, and I'll try to improve it in my next T4 ISO-8 recommendation video, which hopefully can be coming out next week with the Astonishing X-Men. So for the T4s or orange materials, if you want, I'll be using a 3-star system for it. So 3-star being, the absolute recommended. You kind of need those to actually get the character or team to working, to the full potential, to the full power, whatever you want to say. 2-star, that is, they're recommended, but you don't really need to do them right away. You should always prioritize the 3-stars before the 2-stars, but the 2-stars are always nice to have. They will improve the team somewhat and will always be nice to have, but not as good as a 3-star. Now, 1-star, those are kind of say a little bit these T4 luxuries. You kind of don't need them, but of course you're free to do them, and you should always do them lastly if you want to do them. But you can kind of skip them completely if you don't want to use T4s, because you kind of don't have a lot of them. But yeah, those are completely skippable and are kind of luxury. So that's my grading system, 1 to 3 stars. So starting off, we got Hela here. And I'm only going to be reading, the T4 especially. I'm going to put the full T3 or purple material, whatever you want to call it, up on the screen so you can read the whole ability. But I will only read, the orange one, the T4, otherwise it's just too much to unpack and the video will be too long. So starting off, we got Hela's basic, Black Blade. So with the T4, you get a 60% damage to primary target and 10% piercing to most injured enemy. Now, well, I will admit it's a pretty nice damage increase for basic. I'd still put this at 1 out of 3, might take it to 2 out of 3 depending on what you want to use it for, but usually I would just put this as 1 out of 3. But if you use it for raids, RTA, lots of other stuff in the game other than war defense, I could definitely put this at 2 out of 3, but otherwise 1 out of 3. So you shouldn't really focus it too much. So moving on to the special, Command Undead. That will give 60% damage to primary target and apply disrupt for 2 turns instead of 1 if you do the T4. I'll easily put this at a 2 out of 3 star just because of the 2-turn disrupt. It probably isn't too useful if you're just using it in war defense, but Hela is such a good character, you can use her everywhere, whether it be raid, dark dimensions, whatever. So I definitely recommend putting this one here to disrupt any tanks, and then spread the disrupt next turn with her ultimate. So definitely a 2 out of 3, powerful ability. Next up, we got her ultimate, Death Knives. So with the T4, she will spread 4 negative effects from primary target to all secondary targets. Without the T4, she will only do 2, so 2 to 4 increase, that's definitely big. She will also get a 50% damage increase to primary and secondary targets. I'll easily put this at a 3 out of 3 star, just because of the increased amount of negative effects you can spread. Because with the Asgardians, you're just going to have so many negative effects on them if you use the Loki special first and get defense down, get assists, put even more, just spread everything. And even if you just use her by herself in raids, dark dimensions, you're just going to be spreading all those nice debuffs out to everybody. So I definitely recommend doing this one here. Now moving on, we got the unique here lastly, the Goddess of Death. So doing the T4 on that will give you 5% max health, plus 5% max health per non-summoned Asgardian ally. Then on war defense, gain 5% damage, and Asgardian allies also gain 5% damage. So I'll easily put this at a 3 out of 3 also, just because there's so much raw stat increase to this, so much health increase, so much damage increase for herself and all her Asgardian allies. So it's an easy 3 out of 3 if you're going to run the Asgardian team. Now moving on to the ISO-8. So I'd put Hela at the Raider ISO-8. She's just going to be attacking so many enemies with her ultimate and everything like that, putting out vulnerable and all those good stuff. So I definitely recommend doing Raider here for that reason there. You could potentially do her as a healer, but I don't think it's that good. If you are going to do it as a healer, I recommend doing all Asgardians as healer, but I don't think that's the way to go. So I would definitely recommend Raider over that, but healer on everybody is definitely a good option depending on what you're using them for. So moving on to the next character, we got Loki coming up. So Loki's basic, Eldritch Bolt, we got a 30% increase to piercing to primary target and a 10% chance to gain evade. I don't think it's that great of an of a T4, you know, it's good enough, but it's not really anything amazing, so I'd put this at 1 out of 3 star. The 10% increase to weight is nicely, but considering it's only from 40 to 50%, it doesn't do much. If it had been a bit higher, I could have put this at 2 out of 3, but considering that, it's only 1 out of 3. So, his special, Mind Control. Now, with the T4, you will mind control 2 enemies instead of 1. And that's real powerful. You know, granted, without the T4, you do have 75% chance for second enemy. But you know, just that 24% chance that it doesn't happen. It just makes such a big difference going from, you know, having 1 assist to 2 assists. It's just huge difference, so definitely recommend doing this. This is easily a 3 out of 3 star here, just for that reason, because that could easily be the difference if you kill a character or not. So yeah. Now, moving on to the ultimate, mirror images. So mirror images with the T4 will apply stealth to self and all allies except mirror images for 2 turns instead of just 1 turn. And mirror images will also gain 40% damage. And the 40% damage to mirror images, that isn't that great of a T4 just for that. But the stealth for 2 turns is huge. Because you're just going to be hiding everyone, you know, the enemies aren't going to get you, and you're going to have the under the Asgardians, you're just going to keep spawning, dying over spawning, you're going to remove 2 Terminator because you're hell on the team. It's just going to be so powerful, so definitely put this as a 3 out of 3, recommend doing this also. So, lastly here, we got the unique God of Mischief. So, with the T4, you get 10%, minus 10% with enemy resistance. You know, as I said, I always like just flat out buffs, debuffs, you know, whatever it is. So I put this at a 2 out of 3. It isn't that great that I could put it at 3 out of 3, but just increasing stat like this is definitely powerful, especially for a team like Asgardians when you have Hela that's going to be spreading all the debuffs, and Loki that's going to be applying them with his special here. So easily a 2 out of 3 star. It's not the most powerful, but it's definitely good enough that you should do it. Now for ISO-8, I recommend putting Skirmisher on Loki. You know, simply because, you know, you can dispel with that and you're going to have an easier time putting debuffs on, you know, when you put the defense down on them. So easily put Skirmisher on that, is my opinion. You could, as I also said, go healer on him, but I wouldn't recommend it too much. But that's just my opinion. Go Skirmisher, it's the best for me. Moving on, we got Heimdall coming up. So Heimdall, he's going to be a big deal in Asgardians because he's going to make what, you know, the Asgardian is on the defense. But starting off here, we got the basic. So the basic will just do a 50% damage to primary target, so it's not that powerful. I'll put it as a 1 out of 3. It's not something you need to do. It's not powerful enough. 50% isn't that great, so 1 out of 3 for that. His special, Divine Foresight. So that's plus 50% damage to all targets and always clear heal block from self and all Asgardian allies. So that's an increase for 70% chance to clearing heal block to always clear heal block. Now, I'd only put this at a 2 out of 3 just because of that extra clear to heal block. I don't think it's that powerful. You know, of course heal block is going to kind of stop the Asgardians, you know, with their whole healing thing and everything like that, but it's just not too powerful enough in my opinion to just do a 3 out of 3. But you should definitely do it, it's a nice one, but you don't need it to, you know, make the team over the top or anything like that. So moving on, his ultimate, Sworn Out. That's just a 50% damage to primary and secondary target, so it's nothing more too special there, just the same damage amount as you would get with the basic, so I put this as a 1 out of 3 star, not that great. And lastly, we got the unique, and that's kind of what make Heimdall, you know, be Heimdall and be, you know, the guy that makes Asgardians usable on defense. So he will get, with D4 you gain 10% focus with self and all Asgardian allies, so you know, a flat out, you know, increase in stats, you know, you're going to have an easy time putting defense, you know, pair that together with Loki's extra, you know, resistance to enemy that they get less resistance, pair this with extra focus and you're going to have an easier time putting debuffs on. And then on war defense, on spawn, apply defense up to all Asgardian allies for 2 turns. So instead of, you know, doing 3 random Asgardian allies, you just do it for all Asgardians allies for 3 turns. And this is huge, because if it's one thing the Asgardians lack, it's the ability to put defense up on themselves. But this here fixes it. 2 turn defense up on spawn, it's huge. You know, no, of course, you know, there are currently a lot of counters to the Asgardians on defense right now, especially symbiotes, but still it's a powerful ability nonetheless, especially if you're on a low alliance, which I guess this video is more meant for. But yeah, you should definitely do this if you plan on putting the Asgardians on defense, and I recommend most of you put the Asgardians on defense. You know, even if you're in a really high tier alliance, I recommend doing them. Like my Asgardians here, they can easily, you know, bring out an enemy 600k symbiote team, and if I can get a 500-600k symbiote team, I feel like the Asgardians have done their job anyway, even if they get one-shotted. That's just my opinion, but yeah, definitely a 3 out of 3 ability here, and you should definitely do it if you plan on putting Asgardians on defense. So, for the ISO-8, here you can kind of go either way. I use healer just to, you know, to have a little bit extra healing on, but you could also go striker on him, but I just don't feel it's that powerful, you know, he has too much damage. Maybe if you got like a 6 or 7 red star on him, I could recommend going striker instead, but on that I would just go healer on him. So, fourth up, we got Thor coming up. So, I want to go through his ISO-8 first, because the ISO-8 is actually going to determine if you're going to do certain T4s or not. So, for the ISO-8, I definitely recommend putting him as a striker, getting extra attack, getting extra damage. But as I said, you could also do all healer Asgardians, but I wouldn't recommend that for him. But striker would be the one to go for all the extra damage and extra attack, and this is going to play into the T4s also. So, starting off with his basic hammer uppercut, he gets 40% damage to primary target. So normally I just put this as a 1 star. No, it's nothing too special, 40% isn't that huge of a deal. But if you're running striker ISO on him, I'd put this at a 2 out of 3 star. It's not necessary, but it's definitely going to improve, because Thor just does so much damage, especially if you got like a 5 red star on him. It's just going to hit huge, and pair that with his striker ISO that you can double hit, it's definitely recommended to do just because of that alone. Now, moving on to his special hammer throw, that'll give 40% damage to primary target, 30% damage to secondary targets, and also chain to 3 adjacent targets instead of 2 out of 3 targets. This one isn't as powerful, I'd only put this at a 1 out of 3 star. Yeah, I know the increase to, you know, always getting hit 3 targets instead of 2 to 3 is nice, but I don't feel it's too powerful enough, you know, to actually get it up there. But it could be done if you know want to have a big Thor, but I wouldn't recommend doing it first at least. So 1 out of 3 for me. Now, moving on to his ultimate, Lightning Storm. So with T4 on Lightning Storm here, you're going to get an increase to a 50% increase in damage to all targets and a 10% chance to apply stun. Now, only because of the 10% chance to apply stun to each target, I'd give this a 2 out of 3, because if you're doing a raid or something, you know, you could have a lot of targets on the battlefield, you know, maybe you're trying to do a campaign or something, it's just going to be huge. You can basically stun the whole field if you're lucky. Probably won't happen, but you know, it's nice to have that, pair that with all the extra minus resistance to enemy, all the focus you get, you know, from all the other abilities. It's definitely a huge thing to have, so I recommend 2 out of 3 on this one. Now, his unique God of Thunder. So with the T4 you get 5% damage, and on maximum charge 20% damage to all enemies. So again, the ISO-8 comes into play here. If you got the striker ISO-8, I'd put this at a 2 out of 3 easily. If you don't have the striker, it could still be a 2 out of 3, but not that powerful enough. It's kind of between 1 and 2 star if not. But with the striker, I'd put this at a 2 out of 3, just because you get even more damage, you know, with the striker, and then you get the 5% damage here. So definitely a good one to go. And you know, as I said, ISO, recommend striker on him. You could go healer, but not recommended. Striker is the way to go in my opinion. Last but not least, we got Sif here. You know, my favorite character in the game here. You know, I could just totally be biased here and just say do all T4s just because I like her, but I'm not going to, because you really shouldn't. If you look at it, she really isn't that great of a character, even though she's my favorite, but she does have some great abilities nonetheless. But starting off with her basic, it's just a 40% damage to primary target increase, so I'd put this at a 1 star. It's nothing special, not anything much damage. She's a tank, so she won't be really doing damage, so not really worth putting the T4 into. Her special is just 50% damage to primary target, so again, nothing special. She's in a damage dealer, so wouldn't really recommend it either. Now, moving on to her ultimate. That's a 40% damage to primary and secondary targets, and then rebound chain to 4 out of 5 additional targets. you know, usually I wouldn't say it's a good ability here for a tank, but I make an exception here for Sif just because you can chain up to additional 5 targets, because in essence this could actually be helpful at times, because you could just be at, you know, a tank taunting at the complete far right side, and then you have on the complete left side you have a character with like 1 HP. Sif uses a special and you somehow manage to get all the way. Probably won't happen, but you know, just the fact that 5 attack is just so huge for 2 out of 3. It's not nothing too special, but I put it as 2 out of 3. And then moving on to the unique, we got Defender of Asgard. You know, with D4 you get a 10% block chance and 5% block amount. You know, she already has a lot of block chance in itself, so is it really worth it? When you pair her already 25% block chance and 10% block chance for each Asgardian ally, which you know will bring you up to 40%. Add that to 25%, you got 65%, and then you added 10% extra for the T4, you got a 75% block chance, meaning, you know, 1 out of 4 attacks you're going to be blocking anyway. Don't get this wrong, you know, blocking isn't, you know, just avoiding the attack completely, it's just taking less damage, so keep that in mind. And you know, pair that with, you know, getting 15% block amount instead of just 10%. It's not going to make a whole lot of difference, but it's small enough that I'd put this out of 2 out of 3. But it's nothing exceptional really. Now for the ISO-8, I'd put this at a fortifier because she's a tank, she will be tanking. But you could also do healer, as I said, you know, with all Asgardians. But something to keep in mind for the fortifier, if you're just doing level 1 fortifier, it might not be as good. I recommend doing at least tier 3 if you're doing fortifier, just to get, you know, the full use out of it, because with tier 1 you're just going to be getting, I think it's 10,000 barrier on spawn and that's it, but with tier 3 you're actually going to be keep recovering barrier each turn. So yeah, that's currently my take on all the Asgardians. So to do a quick summary of all the tier 4s and ISO-8, for Hela, her basic is 1 star, special 2 star, ultimate and unique are both 3 star, ISO should be Raider. Loki, his basic is 1, special and ultimate is 3 star, unique is 2 star, his ISOs should be Skirmisher. Heimdall, his basic is 1 star, special is 2 star, ultimate 1 star, unique at 3 star, his ISO should be Healer. Thor, the basic is 2 star if he has a striker ISO, special is 2 star, ultimate 2 star, and unique is 2 star if the striker ISO is there, and you know his ISO should be of course be striker then. Sif, her basic is 1 star, special 1 star, ultimate 2 star, and unique 2 star, and her ISO should be fortifier if it's tier 3 or higher. So that's the quick summary of it. So yeah, that's all my recommendation here for T4 and ISO-8. You know, if you did enjoy the video, if this helped you, you know, consider leaving a like, consider subscribing if you want even more tier 4 ISO-8 recommendation video. I will try and upload one weekly, you know, get through all the teams, all the new teams, all the teams, you know, whatever. So yeah, anyway, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.